Hello, this is my quick introduction to using Slack for the Environment and River Gorge Committee. This is just my personal thing here, and I'm not officially representing LCC. I wanted to start by saying why I like Slack. I've used it in a different organization, volunteer organization as well, and really grown to like it after initial skepticism. Here's why I think it's a good idea for ERG. It allows asynchronous announcements and input on projects. Our meetings are not long enough to get in the discussions that we need, and we don't have enough people that show up to the meetings to really get a lot of community input. And by letting people get in when they want, that hopefully will get us more reach. Another nice thing is it's got historical access. Even if you join the committee in the future, you can still see what was discussed in the past. This is particularly important for cyclical things. The River Gorge Festival comes to mind, where you might want to see what was done, what was said and discussed in the previous years. So you could just go back and look at that. And then the advantages versus email. We don't all need to store every conversation individually. I personally I'll delete things when I'm done with them, and then I can't find them if for some reason we need to go back. I need to go back. I also like it, my email inbox. It's sort of my list of to do, and it's demanding on me versus Slack, where I go in a few times a week when I am in the mood, when I've got time to do it, and then I check things out there. So I really like the fact that rather than it coming to you, because I have notifications turned off, I choose when I want to use it. And then when it's used well, it is easier to find things than email, in my opinion. So next step, I'm going to show you how to use it, and I recommend using it on the web. If you like it a lot, you can get it on your phone, of course. So you just go to slack.com. You don't need to install anything. Just access through the web. And I'm going to go in the project, that LCC volunteers. Okay. And you'll see here, I'm not going to go into all of the details because yeah, you can find other guides to Slack. I'm just going to cover basically what's meaningful for LCC and ERG. So one thing I will say is if you've got notifications and they annoy you, go into your settings, edit settings, and then here's the notifications for all new posts. So technically that's what I'm getting, but under more options, an advanced setting, I don't want to see a banner when a new message comes in, and I don't want to see badges and sidebars and following every thread. So I've got that stuff turned off on my phone as well. It only does a little message notification thing if someone has directly messaged me. So again, I like to just go in when I'm interested in accessing it. There are separate channels, and you can add more channels. For example, the River Gorge Festival has its own channel here for discussions. And when you've got a bigger project, it makes sense to split those out. I'm actually wanting to split the ERG committee into one channel for committee business and another one for announcements. And I will show you why by giving you a little tour of our Slack history. So again, the left side is navigation, probably pretty familiar if you've been on the internet before. The middle is the main content, and then I'll show you more about the threads that I just closed. So I'm going to go back to May 27th and show you how I like to use it and the ways I think it works well for a large group. So I wanted to get some discussion going on a couple of things. So one was the NRP fund allocation, and another one was trying to figure out what our mission is here, and then also a work plan. So for these, because these are bigger discussion topics, I specifically said that in my headline here and did all capitals for that. That's makes it easier to find things like this, in my opinion. And again, you'll see more of that as I scroll through why I do that. So I also moved some content into replies. So, well, if you go up, you'll see you can have all of these main posts, and then you can have replies to those posts. And if you try and put everything into the main channel here, it just it's difficult to find things, and it's difficult to scroll through and see what's interesting. So I put that note about please reply to the posts instead of adding a new comment to the channel. And so there's a total of 12. And one thing I'll point out, if I go back to the top, so again, I kept it pretty short um, in the main post, and then I replied to my own comment with a breakdown of the NRP allocations. If you're going to do a table or a big image or any long banks of text, I like to move them into a reply to the message, again, for readability, so everyone else can scroll through easily. So I posted the current numbers. Joel replied with a couple of updates. And then Ian was in this discussion and had a bunch of recommendations about how to reallocate things, which we did take up later. Um, Again, this if we can have some of these discussions ahead of time before meetings, it's going to really speed up the meetings because people will have had a chance to read the main content, get a sense of what money we have in this case, and hear other people's ideas, think about them. I think that's really important when people are asking for money to be spent, that we have time to digest it, because sometimes you think of questions after we've already voted. So yeah, so that's just an example of that. So that was a active discussion because we had several interested parties, less so with these other things. But again, I was partially replying to myself, I think. Yeah, so like for this annual work plan, I had a proposal, but I moved it in there to make it easier to read. If we move up to June 2nd, okay, so here is an example where we've got the Minnehaha Dog Park, the off-leash dog park being discussed. And then there's another comment, which actually did get a bunch of replies, and then another comment, and then another comment. And if those were all um, loaded up into replies, and particularly with a nice header saying Minnehaha Dog Park off-leash dog park closing, then it would be really easy to scroll through and like these see what the topic is and whether it's what you're looking for or interested in. Um, then again, the whole thing about maybe splitting a channel for announcements is there are a bunch of other things, like Ian had this great picture from his garden. But if we have a channel that's for business, then it'll be easier to direct people to discussions ahead of meetings. I'm going to go up to June 11th. Oh, here's something that I can point out. If you put in a link like this NPR uh, story on fabric recycling, it will try and pull an image. And I don't know how exactly this does it, but you've probably seen it on Facebook and other places as well. So it will do that, and then depending, like for Ian's story and my comments, it's probably useful to have those. But if you're getting a lot of big links, you can get rid of them. So as an example, if I went in to edit this message, I can click and delete that. And then it now doesn't take up so much space and isn't clogging the feed, so to speak. Yeah, here's an example where, well, this is maybe a poor example. Christine brought up a possible date change. This was actually a separate note because Lisa wanted to announce this meeting. Um, yeah, so again, this is another one where I don't particularly want that picture to be in there, and so I am going to get rid of it. And so here's an example where this was my idea. I did not put a more of a header on it, but then this is a reply to my message, and Christine's replying to Chris as well. So those could have all been folded up, and then there would be fewer topics. And if you've already read a topic, you don't need to um, go into it further. Here's another one where Joel had some pamphlets and he had links to the pamphlets so he could look at them, which does end up putting them in the images as well. Which again, if we've got an announcements channel, that seems like it's appropriate because you're just going in to look and see what's going on. But for finding discussions of committee business, I think I'd like to have a separate channel for that. So that is the main thing. And then it just, again, my whole motivation on trying to get people to use this is we've got some budget requests and some big topics to talk about. And I mean, we're not going to get everybody on our email list to show up to meetings, of course, but they may want to have some input on decision making. And so this is a way to do it without having email. Email's got problems of reply all versus replies and people getting dropped out of it periodically. Slack gets around that, and it has some other advantages for group discussions. Yeah, so I'm going to cut it off there. And if you do, so you should have gotten an invitation. I think everybody in the ERG email list did get an invitation to join LCC volunteers. Um, and you may have lost that. You can always ask for another invitation if necessary. And yeah, just give it a try. It's takes a little bit of getting used to, but it's really pretty straightforward once you've been in and checked it out, and you can use it as much or as little as you want to.